They ended up winning it, so they are now going to sit back and enjoy this one. See Australia winning the first game of the day, 123-57 over the Philippines. Korea winning it by 4 over Chinese Taipei. And China will face New Zealand. And of course, Japan will go up against India later tonight. China, expectations high, trying to get back to the podium for the second consecutive FIBA Women's Asia Cup. They came unstuck in the semifinals against Japan a couple of years ago. And China actually were pretty decent at the World Cup last year. And here they are now trying to get back to the top in Asia. I'm Jeff Taylor, joined by Mark Mills. And I mean, coming into today's game, or today's games, this was the game that I had circled on my calendar as the one that could potentially be the best. The one that, you know, that China's going to come out strong, and, you know, I'm expecting something special from New Zealand. Yeah,
we look forward to the game before this. Obviously, Chinese Taipei and Korea didn't really deliver what we were expecting. It was quite scrappy, but this one has the makings of, yeah, probably the game of the day from day one here in Bengaluru. And both teams, very different styles, very different kind of cultures within the teams, but should be a very competitive game across the floor as well.
New Zealand came here, of course, in their first FIBA Women's Asia Cup. That was a couple of years ago. And had some good moments, but they really struggled, particularly on offense. And this year they do not have the high-scoring, polished, high-scoring shooting guard slash small forward Jillian Harmon. Guy Malloy has since taken the reins. Kennedy Kariyama has taken himself away from the national team. Actually is the assistant of Guy Malloy in the WNBL with the Melbourne Boomers. And I know that Kennedy and everybody back in New Zealand is excited to watch this game, and they're hoping that these tall ferns are going to put it together. But this China team clearly can't be taken lightly. I mean, they've got some players that have been playing at the highest level, the WNBA and the FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup, and, you know, Xiao Ting, especially the captain. You know, this is going to be a tough team.
Yeah, absolutely. China have firmly established themselves as an Asian powerhouse in basketball, women's and men's. And like you said, Xiao Ting, 12 points per game in the World Cup last year. Another one to look out for me is Gao as well, 11 points in the Asia Cup on this court 2 years ago. So she's obviously likes this arena and likes the setting. So a really finely balanced game we have ahead of us.
Okay, well, we are going to have a pause in the commentary for the playing of the national anthems for both New Zealand and China.
Please remain standing for the national anthem of Team China.
Okay, we're just under 4 minutes away from the opening tip of China in the red and New Zealand in the black. well, the white and red for China. And there's Guy Malloy. Again, a long-time, very successful coach. Has actually been Coach of the Year in the WNBL in Australia a couple of times. Speaks to his pedigree. And he was an assistant, actually, this Tall Ferns team before, and then again has taken over following Kariyama's departure.
Yeah, huge amount of pedigree for him. Obviously, part of the Australian system as well. Assistant coach of their women's team for 5 years, late 80s, early 90s. So plenty of experience. And if New Zealand are going to break through, they'll need to.
Well, referees Paul Skayam, Ji Yoon Lee, and Imran Ali Baig. So they are going to be charged with responsibilities. And I mean, I've heard this is always your favorite part of the game, so I might as well just hand it over to you.
Yeah, no, it's an exciting part of the game when we get to have a quick look at the rosters. And for New Zealand, for me, Michaela Cox obviously stands out. She's had a huge Asia Cup last time out, as did Kalani Purcell. Double-double average for Kalani Purcell. Expect both of those to feature big today for New Zealand. But as with every New Zealand sporting team, it's not just basketball, it's not men's or women's sports specifically. Expect the team ethos and their team culture to be absolutely critical to what they do.
And of course, Natalie Taylor and Cox, members of that 2008 Olympic team from New Zealand and China. So Cox, Purcell, Boagni, she's quite a talent. Taylor and Leisure Walker in the starting five.
And for the Chinese team, again, plenty of talent throughout their roster. So many players that played at the World Cup, so many players that played at the Asia Cup back in 2017 as well. But it's difficult to look past Xiao Ting. She's the firecracker. She's the spark plug for this team and the one that will get things going for them.
So there you have it. Zhu Liman's team. Hangzhou Gao Song, very important player, veteran. Xiao Ting. Li Yueri, the youngster who just thrilled us a couple of years ago as a teenager, outstanding talent. They've got some size that New Zealand are going to have to contend with. So Yang Liwei, Li Huan, Xiao Ting, Liu Jiaxin, and Li Yueru in that starting five.
And again, at this stage of the tournament, it's so important for both these teams to set a bit of a flag in the sand as well for exactly what they want to do. For New Zealand, obviously, they want to break into that top four, finishing 6th last time 2 years ago. A break into the top four would be huge for them. For China, they know they want to make it through to the final. They want to be potentially on that top step, and for them, if that's their goal, then every game is absolutely critical. They cannot afford to slip up here today against New Zealand.
Well, I think New Zealand's probably aiming for a podium finish themselves, but they know there's some good teams here. We talked about this beforehand coming here. We're thinking, who are the two teams that you would expect to see in the final if you had to put money on it? Well, I would have said probably have a rematch from 2 years ago, Japan and Australia. I wasn't that convinced.
I wouldn't have put money on it
in the first game, but they played the Philippines. I'm sure they will get better. Of course, one of the
And turns out maybe not.
Yep, you're right. 23 rebounds for China, 19 for New Zealand, 5 assists apiece, 5 steals for China, 6 for New Zealand, and 14 turnovers for China, which just shows how dysfunctional they've been when they've had the ball. 8 turnovers against New Zealand, or New Zealand have 8 turnovers. And yeah, I mean, you know, the game is flowing. You know, maybe you're not executing to perfection, but neither is China. You call the timeout, you give your team a breather. You know, you can see the Chinese players run, you know, go over to the bench, their tongues hanging out of their mouths, they're tired. But you did see like a calm direction from Zhu Liman, the coach. And ultimately, you know, Lee comes out and hits a couple of threes.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it's not just the timeouts that's caused that, but you do kind of wonder, you're thinking, the game's slightly in your favor at the moment. Do you want to rock the boat? Yes, your players are looking a bit tired, but so are the Chinese players. I know you're going to lose the timeout once we get to the halftime and you feel obliged to burn that one, but yeah, it's maybe a decision in hindsight you wouldn't have made now, but for China, exactly right. It was, you know, great coaching by Coach Xu, and he took his time, he was calm, and he was very, like you say, just straightforward with his team in that timeout. And what a change that minute has made to the game. A 6-point swing like that from New Zealand up by 2. They're down by 4 now.
Yeah, New Zealand took a 4-point lead. I think it was Stella Beck. Yeah, Stella Beck hit a 3 with 3:21 remaining. And then they weren't able to build on. Leisure Walker drove to the basket, got a foul, and went to the free throw line and missed both free throws. And both teams just kind of got stuck, really, didn't they? They just couldn't get anything going. And ultimately, China finished the first half stronger.
Yeah, and as great as it is for China to hit 2 threes, you're also sitting there thinking, wow, we don't need that momentum going into the locker room. We needed it a little bit earlier in the game, and they'll be hoping that they don't lose that momentum. For New Zealand, they'll want to go back to the grind as soon as they get back on the floor, and that's going to dictate, can China, you know, find the China that we know, or are New Zealand going to start to dictate terms?
Well, we're at halftime. It's China leading at 21-17 over New Zealand. We'll be right back. Stillebeck and New Zealand have come out and played a whale of a game defensively today, and they led by as many as 4 points, but a couple of threes by China, by the point guard Li Huan, right at the end of the second quarter, has given them a 21-17 lead. You can see Beck, she hit a three. Among those 5 points, she's also got 3 rebounds, and has clearly stepped up her game from 2 years ago when she came to this very event.
And for me, I think she's going to be important. I think New Zealand are lacking offense, and Beck could be one of those keys to unlocking a bit of offense. I think what she needs, though, is to take maybe a little bit more on her shoulders, be less of a team player, as it were, and be maybe a little bit more demanding.
Meanwhile, for China, you have to say Xiaoting's 8 points. She had the spectacular and typical Xiaoting drive where she spun and got to the basket, made it look like an easy layup. I mean, New Zealand didn't know what to hit him. She's only got 8 points, so it's been a frustrating effort for them overall. And that Li Huan display right at the end of the half just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it did, and it really kind of gave them a bit of a lifeline, because they were looking slightly at the end of the rope. And for Xiaoting, she might have only 8 points, and the concern that I would have if I was China is that she's only taken 4 shots.
Yeah.
If she's your go-to, she shouldn't be having 4 shots in a half of basketball. She's, you know, even more so when you're struggling to score. If the game is free-flowing, then fine, who cares who scores the points? But it's not. You need to lean on the players that you know can produce.
Well, you know, Zhu Liman really wants to take advantage of his team's size with Li Yueru, Han Zhu, and Liu Jiasun, but they haven't been the factor, you know, because New Zealand knew it was coming, and when the ball was dumped down low, they had tall ferns around them.
Yeah, they either doubled down or they fronted the post, and when they fronted the post, they kept pushing backwards. So the lob pass over the top just became an almost impossible mission for the Chinese guards to execute. And, you know, the New Zealand team knew it was coming. Coach Malloy knew that they were going to work on that they were going to try and punish them in the low post. And the preparation that New Zealand have done to deal with that is obviously paying off.
Defensive transition. Don't run it back in the middle of the floor. Run wide. Find your runners. Make sure you identify the handler. Okay, now on the
Zhu, I have to give him credit, because oftentimes, for me, an aspect that I don't like about him is kind of his body language, but I think he's been really patient today with his team if they have really struggled.
Yeah, and I know from the coaching days that I've had, and you even see a smile on his face as he walks back to the bench, and that's great psychology from the coach. The last thing his team need now is someone to tell them that how badly that first half has gone.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious how badly it's gone. You don't have to be a basketball genius to know this isn't what they were expecting. So it's much better for him to maybe lighten the mood, take some of the pressure off the shoulders of the players, because ultimately you'll find most players play best and are most creative when they don't feel that pressure as much, or they're able to ignore the pressure that sits on their shoulders.
Well, you can't speak highly enough about Purcell's defense and Taylor's defense. So it'll be Purcell that start. In fact, both of them will be in the game here at the start of the second half, along with Leisure Walker, Cox, and Wagner. Well, second half underway, folks. New Zealand trailing by 4 against China. China wearing the white. And New Zealand looking for some offense. Cox gets in the paint, picks up her dribble, gives it back to Purcell. Leisure Walker puts up the short little jumper, kind of rimmed out. And now a reach and foul is called on Cox. I think overall these referees have done a good job in this game.
Yeah, they've actually called that one on Leisure Walker in the end, trying to reach in and tie it up.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take that back. That didn't look like one. But anyway, no, they've been good overall, and this time good hustle from Xiaoting, keeping it alive. It goes out of bounds though, and back to New Zealand.
And we seem to have picked up where we left off in the first half. Still no one kind of trying to control the game.
But actually that last move from Leisure Walker, I mean, she showed us something. You know, that ball is almost down on that drive. So maybe she's more of an option offensively as well. Just 18 years of age. That's what I love about these tournaments, when these young players get a chance and make the most of it. Here she is, looking for the shot. Now the bounce pass to Purcell. Goes up, follows it up, and saves it in bounds, but to China. Now Xiaoting Li, who hit those threes, goes down and lays it up, and she's the woman of the moment right now for China.
Yeah, it's not an 8-0 run for China, it's an 8-0 run for Li.
Biggest deficit of the game now for New Zealand. Biggest lead for China. Cox, pass back to Purcell, drives in. Oh, she had the layup. It couldn't have been an easier shot, but she didn't get it up. And China react quickly, and Guy Malloy has to call timeout. And it is literally a case of being able to finish the layup for Purcell.
Yeah, it really is, and also it's a smart move by Guy Malloy on that timeout, because the last thing you need is a full-flowing China coming at you. That's how the game's going to get blown open quickly. Down to, you know, an 8-point lead now for China, so smart move from Coach Malloy, really.
So let's get Nat here on the 2, and we'll get Chevy there. Right, so we're going to go into the real action. They're cheating on it. Come off. So we can get that catch. And then sprint this across, get the hand back. So set your first screen in the middle, really wide but legal. Get your next pick.
Well, Lee's showing that basketball is not always a game for the big players. I mean, she's the shortest player on the court, and here she is coming out and making the big plays in the game.
Yeah, just 1.70 meters tall, and she's carrying a team at the moment, that's for sure. And she's the one that's kind of led the way, and we almost called her out halfway through that first half, saying, look, it's time. You're the floor general. Yes, you're controlling things, but you need to start scoring. You need to start leading, and she's certainly not disappointed.
Well, that was a satisfied look on the face of Zhu Lehman. Not often seen during a game, so he's clearly seeing some good things from his young point guard that he likes. And now she's playing defense against Cox. So see if Paul Vost has come into the game as well for New Zealand. Quick pass, and Taylor, oh, she misses the layup. But good hands by Boagne, but these New Zealanders have to start making some layups, or this is going to be over quickly. Paul Vost, she has the layup, and she makes it with the left hand. I think that's a good move by the coach to get a little bit of offense.
You saw how nervous she was going for that layup, though. You could almost feel it off her, and you could feel the crowd going, oh, surely you can't miss 3 layups in a row, New Zealand.
I can't believe Taylor missed hers. And good defense by Boagne, and now Cox up ahead. Xiaoting hustles back, and Cox misses the layup as well. That's 3 layups missed in the first 3 minutes for New Zealand, and China go down and hit a baseline jumper. Liu, they punish them.
On that last one, though, Xiaoting, good defense. She put enough pressure without causing the body contact to put Cox off, and New Zealand, they can't afford to, at any point in this tournament against any team, let alone China, miss layups.
No, yeah, you're right. In fairness, that was tougher. This time Purcell drives in, wanted the foul. Now Li pushes it for China. Wang for 3, good! And boy, China have just taken advantage, literally, of the New Zealand misses, and you can see their confidence is growing. And really, New Zealand have got to knuckle down defensively now. Shot clock down to 8. China sensing the moment, comes in, and Xiaoting reaches in, forces the turnover. Li has it, 3-on-1 break. And fortunately for New Zealand, she misses, but Paul Vost knocks it out of bounds. So China clearly benefiting from Li's inspirational play. She's going to get a breather. Wang hit the 3-pointer. Liu hit the baseline jumper. Look at Wang. Doesn't hesitate. Wide open. And New Zealand have really got a mental battle now. I mean, they've got, they've put themselves into great positions They just got to put those balls away. Wang again, left open. And Gao Song, great hustle by China. Wu. And I have to say, I've never had a player come that close to me. Yeah. Almost. Look at this. This is the guy right in front of me. And here we are.
There we go. There we go.
Boy, I'm glad that he took the brunt of that.
Yeah, that was good of him. That was good of him to take one for the team.
Wow. But don't drop the camera, whatever you do. Look at this. Great camera work. It may have come at a cost. You'll be bruised tomorrow, but at least we got some good pictures. Penina Davison checks into the game now. Boagny, the China defense has really picked up. Farnworth, again. Xiao Ting reaching in, almost forcing another turnover. Xiao Ting really starting to dominate the game with her defense.
And weirdly, on the defensive end, it's not the offensive end that she's dominating. And this is the whole thing for China, is their defense now is coming up a few levels again. Because they're kind of got their backs up, they're ready to go because the offense is flowing. This isn't the defense that we've seen from China in the first 25 minutes of this game.
This is just to confirm our cameraman is okay, but we just can't get enough of this. We're going to show it again. Oh, look at him. We got to get some padding on there.
Looks like an unsportsmanlike foul on the cameraman from where I was.
Beck, under pressure, has to launch it. And right now, New Zealand facing their biggest struggle of the game. They were really in, giving as good as they were getting in the first half. And again, they came out strong in the second half. They just didn't score, and China have taken it full advantage.
Well, China are on a 15-2 run at the moment. They finished off with 6 points, and they've opened up 9-2 in this third quarter.
Gao. Boagny gets in there for the rebound. Maybe they need to run something for Penina Davidson down low. She hands it off to Palvast. Farnworth. Back outside, Palvast, shot clock down to 6. Good defense by China. They're giving nothing away. Farnworth steps back for 3. It's an air ball. And Wang, I don't know how she didn't step out of bounds there. Or Wu, rather, excuse me. Now Hongzhu, soft touch. And starting to see China in all their glory now.
Yeah, this is really New Zealand hemorrhaging points now, and critical that they change something up. For me, it sounds strange, but you'd almost want, if I'm Coach Malloy, I'm saying, look, let's slow this game down. At the moment, the high tempo is actually favouring, China by a long, long way, which is strange to say when you're playing New Zealand. New Zealand love to play basketball at a high pace, but at the moment, the Chinese are enjoying this high pace. Let's slow it down. Let's maybe get to a little bit more of the old school grinding.
It's probably a good idea. Tempo, fast tempo not working for the Tall Ferns. Farnworth spins, puts up a very difficult shot. Palvast chases. Whoa, puts it up. Nobody there to rebound for New Zealand. Well, they were there, but Tessa Boagny was not able to get her hands up. And Stella Beck as well.
For New Zealand now, the key is just don't let this lead grow out too far. They really just need to hold them. Ride this storm at the moment that the Chinese have. They'll have their moment again.
Good hesitation, and then the foul by Penina Davidson. So free throws coming for Yang. All she needed to do there was raise her arms up. But again, that swiping motion.
But it's so tempting as a player. You're in the heat at the moment. You see the ball there. You think you can get hold of it and you're bringing your arms down. But absolutely, you've done the hard work. You've made your feet do all the work. All you need to do is stand tall in that situation.
Hang off target with the first. It's their biggest lead of the game, 15. And now they give away the rebound. Hongzhu gets it and now has a chance for a three-point play. I tell you what, this could not be going any worse for the Tall Ferns. And for China, they are just seizing the moment.
You almost feel like it's a different Chinese team that have come out in this second half, though. Just like we were talking about, maybe it is the slightly light-hearted nature of the coaching staff that has enabled the pressure to come away from the Chinese, and they're playing with a bit more freedom, and they're a lot more relaxed, and you can see it on the floor. They're enjoying the game.
And now the steal from Hongzhu. Oh, she was gonna, I thought she might try to dunk it there. Panina Davison gets it for New Zealand. Boy, what a let-off for New Zealand. And Guy Malloy is calling a timeout. New Zealand is just breaking down in every aspect of the game now. And good defense again from Wu. The pass up ahead. There's nowhere to go. Passes over to Hongzhu. Wang open. And then coming over the back, Gao Song. No foul called. Not sure how that transpired. It looked like she bowled over the tall fern. Watch this.
I think Beck might have made quite a meal of it, but no, that's a foul, absolutely. She even got hands on the small of her back, pushing her forward. So, yeah, tough for the call not to go your way there, but Coach Malloy wisely, but scarily burning his second timeout this early.
It's a nightmare right now for New Zealand. They hasn't been the same for them since they called the timeout late in the first half. And to be fair, they regrouped at halftime. They came out and they had some opportunities. They didn't put them away, and now they're really struggling.
Now you've got to play after we penetrate the ball. So
the shooting numbers much better now for China.
Right here, and one guy penetrating, again we're standing. We had another player said to Shep.
For Coach Shu, it's just really key that it's just about no mistakes. Just carry on, execute the plan, carry on as we're doing, and finding that balance between being light-hearted now and, you know, and driving your team forward. For Coach Malloy, that's why he's paid the money and I'm not to coach. I don't know what the answer is now for Coach Malloy. It's tough because you have got a full-force Chinese team just battering you on both ends of the floor, and New Zealand need to change something up. I don't know how it's going to be. Maybe play a little bit of small ball, try and go a little bit too quick, you know, even faster than they can, or I don't know, maybe some zone defense or swap it up.
We see Hongzhu has really had a great third quarter. She hit the soft baseline jumper, then she hit the shot down low despite being fouled.
Almost saw her dunk. We almost had her dunk.
Yeah, I thought she was going in for the dunk, and then she ended up missing the layup.
Yeah.
It's all about execution now for New Zealand on this end. Got to keep the intensity up as well. And there's a bump, and well,
just doesn't give up her cell at all. She has no idea what a lost cause is.
Paul Voss, her pass intercepted, but Guo stepped out of bounds. So New Zealand get it back. Now you got to really salute the Chinese defense in this third quarter.
Well, they're reading the passing lanes perfectly. They really are. And they're cheating on those passes as well. They're jumping into me. It's a risk, but at the moment it's a risk that's really paying off.
Foreign work with the bounce pass, and Davison finishes with the left hand.
And I like that. A little bit of old school pick and roll action for New Zealand. That might be a bit of a trigger to get them back into this one.
Now a little backdoor cut, and the easy handoff to Gao Song.
What a beautiful pass from Wu, though. Absolutely wonderful, perfectly timed, and just waited perfectly.
Farnworth left her feet, was able to pass it over to Purcell. Davidson goes hard to the basket again, this time unsuccessfully. Now the handoff, Gao Song. Artiana's going to come into the game for New Zealand. Cox left open. Oh, she passed it up to Paul Voss for the three, and drills a three. And gives them a little bit of hope. Back to a 13-point game. Paul Voss with 7.
If New Zealand could just bring it back to single digits before the end of this quarter, they will have seen this quarter as actually a success based on exactly how this quarter has played out so far. That's a great shot, and a tough shot as well. It was challenged. Paul Voss wasn't open for that shot. So
I was just getting ready to say they need to get her the ball, but they're going to take her out.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Catch her breath.
I'm not sure I'd ever take someone out after they just drained a corner 3.
Well, Kraitana comes in, and Taylor also comes back into the game. And Cox has to be careful that she doesn't remonstrate too much here. Yeah, she's the referee. Foul. Yeah, the referee saw the left hand definitely on the Chinese. 1:55 to go in the third. I mean, there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time for New Zealand to get back into this. They gotta be smart.
That's what I always say to people as well. You know, every basketball team in every game has a crisis in the game. Every basketball team has a down moment where it's all going wrong. What you want is that down moment to be early enough in the game that you've actually got time to fight your way back in and find some form. This is very early in the game for New Zealand to have this, so it's not you know, the end of the game. They're down by 13 with still just about 12 minutes to play. So much to play for.
So now that free throw makes it a 14-point advantage. Purcell with the bounce pass. Kraitana. It was a good catch, but didn't look close. And now the good hustle yet again by Taylor, getting in the way of the pass. She's definitely mastered the art of turning her back on the ball and getting in front of the offensive player, preventing the catch. Here's Cox for 3. That's good. Well, that'll work for the Tall Ferns.
And now it's just an 11-point ball game. This is exactly what we're talking about. They've got enough time to have had this bad phase.
Hongzhu goes in and out. Now Taylor again. Cox has just hit a 3. You might want to find her. Here she is, coming up top, but Davidson's going to go to the basket, and she's going to field the player, and she goes right at Hongzhu and scores to get it back to a 9-point game. I like the positive play of Davidson. On 2 of her 3 drives to the basket, she scored, and also Cox, not the first time, has drilled one from deep. Look at this, and she was even possibly fouled on that.
Yeah, I think it's a strong move, and it's the right move. She's judged that she's going to have quicker footwork than, you know, who she's going against. So she take it to the basket, take it strong, and like you say, she drew in some contact, just maybe not enough contact for the officials to make the call.
Well, she's got 6 points, 4 rebounds, Davidson, and crucially, she's been able to finish at the rim. Point guard Lee with the 14 points. Really is the MVP of the game. If it were to finish right now, the way she turned this thing around for China.
Oh, if China are going to go on and win this one, then yeah, you have a feeling that, yeah, she has to be handed that one. But I just feel that New Zealand are now in the ascendancy. It's almost like the tables have turned. We're in the final minute of the 3rd quarter, and they're doing to China what China did to them just before the half break.
So Cox, actually, that was her first 3, and Paulvast has the other 3 in the 3rd quarter as well. And Stella Beck obviously had the first half 3-pointer. They're just trying to stabilize things, and that was a good timeout by China, by Zhu Lehman. 59.6 seconds to go in the 3rd quarter. And Xiao Ting, the captain, inbounds the ball to Lee.
If I'm China now, if I can get to the end of the quarter still up by 9, I'm happy. As long as this doesn't go any lower, I think it's a job well done in the final minute.
And this is Purcell, just not necessary. You've just put China on the free throw line. And you are how many feet away from the basket? So Xiao Ting goes to the line.
Yeah, not just that, it's Purcell's 4th foul as well. It's an important part of what they do, and picking up a 4th foul for no reason.
Yeah, just an awful play by Purcell. I mean, she's played great defense. The intensity's there. She's got to know better. Xiao Ting makes the first, misses the second. And Purcell with the rebound. Not fully punished. Cox over to Taylor. Good D from Guo.
It's good to see Palvas come back in. This is a smart move by Coach Malloy. He knows he's only got maybe a couple of possessions or even just one possession left. And get a shooter on the floor, see if they can break into this lead a little bit further.
Well, they get the pass in low, but then the pass from Taylor eludes Davidson, and it triggers a break for China, and they're going to get a three-point play opportunity. Boy, talk about a disaster. That is a potential five-point swing. And salute Wu, how she just hustled down the floor. Wu Tong Tong.
And it's perfect. It's literally textbook. If you want to teach juniors how to drive to the basket, draw contact, exactly that. Stake your claim to the middle of the lane, wait for the contact to come, and hold your body control. Perfect play.
And she does indeed complete the three-point play. And once again, it's a 13-point advantage. Paul Vost, and now China commit a foul a long way from the basket, but that is their first, if you can believe it, in the third quarter. That's tough to believe.
Yeah, and to a certain degree, I think that's where a lot of Purcell's frustration has come from. That she's felt that there's been contacts that hasn't necessarily been called.
Cox steps back for three, and they get it back. Cox puts it up again, and might have rushed that one with the shot clock so late. But anyway, here's Lee. They left enough time for China, and fortunately for Davidson, she doesn't commit a foul there. The referee's letting them play on both ends of the floor. Well, they did get a lot of ball there. The way Davidson turned around and looked, she was kind of like, I didn't foul anybody. 0.4 on the game clock, and good defense from Kratiana. So it was a quarter that was owned by China, and they have outscored New Zealand 21-12 in the third to lead 42-29. 10 minutes remaining. (42-29), China on top of New Zealand, and the shooting numbers continue to get better. It could be worse actually for New Zealand. China just 9 of 16 from the free throw line. Yeah, they could have punished them more, but China, to give you an idea of how different their third quarter was, they scored as many points in the third quarter as they did in the entire first half. So they really ramped things up, and it was across the board, and you saw that kind of confidence almost slightly viral within the Chinese team. It seemed to spread really quickly, and what it did was it spurred their defensive end. So once again, they held New Zealand to just 12 points on the defensive end. For New Zealand, I think the key might be from downtown. I think they need to start looking from the perimeter, fight their way back in that way. That said, I think there's other opportunities as well for the New Zealand team to get back into the game, and they've shown that they have some options there. Purcell obviously has been looking quite frustrated, but the likes of Penina Davidson has shown she's got real class going to the basket, going strong and playing tough inside. So it's certainly not over. Plenty of time for New Zealand to get back into this one, but I think they might need a strong shooting performance in this final 10. Well, China had a really good run going in the FIBA Women's Asia Cup, winning 5 of 6 Asia Cups from 2001 when it was held in Bangkok through 2011, and the last 3 have been won by Japan. Hangzhou figures to be around for some time for China. She'll probably play in several more Asia Cups, I would imagine. Yeah, I think a lot of the faces we've seen for both these teams, some real young talent, which is great to see. Well, this isn't a tournament maker or breaker, whether you win or you lose, but certainly when you start with a win, it makes your life a lot easier. Xiaoting over to Lee, who comes right out, attacks the basket. That's a break for New Zealand because it looked like she had a good look. Paul Vost. And Kratiana drives in and gets back the miss. And again, New Zealand kind of rushed themselves. Lee with a bounce pass, and China break and score with Guo. And I'm with you. I don't think New Zealand can play at this pace.
No, I think they need to slow it down and look for some outside options. Get some shooters on the floor and see if they can fire their way back into this one.
They might be able to play this pace, but not against China. And Kratiana this time does get inside and score with a reverse layup. China looking to, oh, another spin from Xiaoting. Are you kidding me? Even though it's her patented move, it's just such an amazing move every time she does it.
It's just so explosive. You don't expect it to come, but like you say, you should do. You've seen this so many times, but yeah, just wonderful to watch.
Michaela Cox, and Michaela Cox drills another three.
Now, for me, this is what I'm doing. Not only am I shooting threes so we can fire our way back into the game, it also helps our transition defense. It's easier to get back on the defensive end if you're shooting a three-point game.
Well, they got back on defense, but it didn't prevent China from getting a rare dunk to the young center, Lee, who will now go to the free throw line. And Lee has made one of her 2 attempts at the line tonight. Takes a deep breath. 20 years of age, plays for Guangdong Women.
Just drafted by the Atlanta Dream in the recent draft, so it'd be interesting to see where her future lies, whether it is across playing in the WNBA or whether she continues to play a trade in China.
I suppose she could play in both, can't she?
Yeah, potentially. It's just the thing you always have a worry about, and it's the discussion we had yesterday, was just how much pressure you put on a young body. You know, how much do you put through that body at such a young age?
That's true. Bounce pass. Oh. The play was there. A little backdoor cut from Paul Vost. Because China, as you said, overplaying, guessing those passing lanes.
Oh, one of my favorite zone defenses now, 1-3-1.
Oh, Lee with a fake. And a break for New Zealand. It rimmed out. Now Paul Vost has to avoid the temptation of pushing off with her forearm. Lee being a pest. Paul Vost again, back to Davidson. Now to Cox. Takes what the defense gives her. And then Lee says, don't even think about it. Xiaoting in control. And here comes China again. Lee to Xiaoting, calling the play. Get inside, Lee, she says. Here's the ball. Go to work. And she does, right at Davidson. That was all Xiaoting.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely shepherded Lee into the post, told her exactly where to go, because she knew that once she had on her back that low in the paint, that it was only going to win one way.
Now Davidson gets down low, but passes it back out. China doing a good job of putting pressure on the perimeter shooters. Cox takes it down low, tries to follow it up, and finally gets a foul called on Lee. Great hustle from Cox. But boy, China are really making New Zealand work hard on this end of the floor.
Yeah, New Zealand will be happy to see the back of Lee, but unfortunately, Han Shu comes straight in and just becomes an even more dangerous rim protector than Lee even was as well.
It's an interesting substitution because Lee was just becoming a factor. She just scored down low. She just swatted a shot. Kratiana misses from deep. Wang over to Guo, puts up an air ball. Kratiana holds up over to Taylor. And look at Xiaoting going for the ball. And collides with Leisure Walker, but boy, she's played like the captain in this second half.
Yeah, she really has. You're talking about the change as well. It's difficult, I know, for coaching staff. They like to have their rotations when people are coming in and out of the game, but for me, I'd much rather have that flexibility. Like you say, if someone's starting to warm up and get some confidence, why would you take them out of the game? Especially when they're of a young age and they want this experience and they want a positive experience at international basketball.
Well, Leisure Walker's going to learn that she can't just dribble the ball in front of the defense like that. Here she is, pulls up at the line. And coming up, almost committing a foul. Yang pushes it quickly for China. Turning the screw are the Chinese right now. Bounce pass, hand off to Hangzhou, soft jumper. Offensive rebound. And great hustle, Xiaoting to get it back in bounds. Look at China, they're just beating the New Zealanders to the ball right now. Now inside to Xiaoting, going to work again. Wow, she's been terrific. And now the turnover on the inbounds play. Leisure Walker dives, but gets it out of bounds. And really, New Zealand, it's not been a good second half for them.
And you know what the Chinese are doing? They're out New Zealanding New Zealand. That's what they're doing right now. They're out hustling. They're challenging everything. They're being scrappy. They're being really confrontational on the defensive end. They're getting in passing lanes. And, yeah, they're almost taking the New Zealand DNA and used it against them.
Farnworth comes in for Leisure Walker. And now the ball inbounded, and New Zealand come up with the basketball. Taylor. Taylor coming up on the midpoint of the fourth quarter. Farnworth is going to attack Hangzhou. Put too much on it. Boagny gets it and misses down low, stays with it, puts it back up and in. So China had their biggest lead of the game at 17. Now it's back to 15. And good defense by Farnworth, forcing the turnover in the open floor. 2-on-1 break. Bounce pass, gets it back. Beautiful basketball, New Zealand. The pass from Beck. And that gets it back to a 13-point deficit. That was the best sequence of the game for Farnworth. Here she is.
Wonderful play from New Zealand. Again, just unselfish basketball, and that's great. When you know your teammate isn't going to be selfish, you work so much harder for each other, and this is how New Zealand are going to get back into things. They've got to lean back on that team ethos.
But Zhu Lehman doing a good job of calling his timeouts to try to nip that rally in the bud. What's interesting to me is you've kind of cut out the middleman of what China did have when Tom Moore was the coach. Obviously a famous, successful coach, coached New Zealand even. Coached them at the Olympics. 2004, I think it was, in Athens. Before that, obviously the Opals. He coached Great Britain at the Olympics. But when he was coaching China, and he coached them at the Olympics as well in Beijing in 2008, he always had to have a translator. Yeah, now with Zhu Lehman, he could just talk straight to his team.
Yeah, and there's a lot lost in translation. There really is. It's a completely different coaching, style when you're having to have a translator. I remember watching Coach Blatt when he had the Russian team and watching him have to work for a translator, and he's one of the best I've ever seen do it, to be honest. But he had pretty good non-verbal clues of how happy or unhappy he was. That seemed to help his coaching style. But yeah, I think having a native speaker as a coach is always an advantage if you can.
Three-point attempt, no good. And Farnworth rebounds it and runs. Puts the pressure on. Gets inside, puts it right up. Oh, Farnworth. And there's Boagny for the offensive rebound and putback. And suddenly it's an 11-point game. The Tall Ferns. A little bit of life in the land of the white feather. And now it's Liu. Purcell back in there. She's got the 4 fouls. She's got to be careful, but she's got to play D as well. Now, Wang pulls up, misses badly, and Taylor hustles to the ball. Here comes the Tall Ferns. Hands it off to Farnworth. Purcell tells Beck to come and receive it. Instead, Purcell's going to drive in, but then nowhere to go, turns it over. And Yang attacks for China. And China take it back out. If China score here, it is going to be deflating for New Zealand, but I think they got a charge. Oh. Was that a shot clock? I thought that was a charge, so they didn't call that. Wow. Now Stella Beck quickly to the other end. Farnworth for three. And China getting closer and closer now, up 53-40. They've had a couple of plays that didn't go well. Turnover from Purcell. Then at the other end, the jump shot after contact.
That's Purcell out of the game as well. Yeah, that's a charge.
I would have thought that was a charge.
Yeah, that looks like a charge.
And they get the basket there, and now...
Yeah, Purcell's fouled out of the game.
Now Purcell
Coach
has
Malloy
fouled out.
wants a timeout.
Well, anyway, these things even out over the course of the game. But certainly, maybe some whistles haven't gone their way. But, you know, overall, New Zealand have been their own worst enemy in many respects in this second half.
Yeah, I don't think Purcell psychologically is in the right place for her to be in the game at the moment. She's quite frustrated. She's frustrated with the officials, and that's not a positive. You know, she's not going to bring the positives that, my goodness me, she can bring. The thing I look at now is, and this isn't the time to do it, but New Zealand down by 13, there's going to be a trigger point in Coach Malloy's mind where he's going to protect the bigger players, and he needs to start rotating out and resting players. He's going to have to draw a line potentially under this game in a minute, maybe a minute and a half's time. Because how many coaches have you seen absolutely fried if they play their best players in a blowout game and they end up picking an injury up in the last closing seconds? You want to try and wrap cotton wool around your key players, and it would just be interesting to see at what point Coach Malloy draws that line now.
And they've got their first up tomorrow against Australia. So
not much of a break, right?
This is a tough ask for New Zealand. You know, it's always tough when you play Australia. And then on Thursday, they're first up against the Philippines. That'll be a game that they will be heavily favored to win.
But that's an absolute, that Thursday game is an absolute must-win. That really is. If they lose to the Philippines, that really puts them on the back foot of not even making, you know, that classification game to get through to the next round.
Yeah.
But it's difficult, isn't it? You still want to chase a game. I know what it's like as a coach. I want to chase a game even if it's out of grasp. If I'm down by 20 with a minute to go, I still want to play and try and chase stuff as hard as I can. But this is a tough tournament. A lot of games in a short space of time.
China more than happy to take a few seconds off the clock here, perhaps. No, they're going to work the offense, and they're going to take the three early. And there's an unsportsmanlike foul has been called on China. And this can be huge. This could be a 4-point swing. Could be even a 5-point swing.
Yeah, Xiao Ting called for that one.
Wow.
Off the ball, so difficult for us to see. We just heard it more than saw it.
Well, Beck took one for the team there. And now she's got a couple of must-make free throws. Watch this. Off the ball. Okay, there they are, tangled up for the rebound. And Xiao Ting just kind of flung her away.
I think Beck made the most of it. It's definitely an unsportsmanlike foul. She put her hands on her and pushed her. She's not playing at the ball. She's not trying to do anything else, but Beck certainly bought it a little bit more.
And she only makes one of two. Back to a 12-point game, 3:06. New Zealand need to play perfect basketball the rest of the way.
Yeah, on both ends of the floor as well. That's the tough ask.
So both leads back in the game here for China, the center and the point guard. And the defensive pressure picks up as well. Farnworth drives in, banks it in. The veteran back to a 10-point game. Well, I don't think Coach Malloy is going to call off the Dogs. I think he's going to go for it.
Yeah, I don't blame him. 10-point game with 2:50 to go. This is what you live for as a coach. And New Zealand once again in a 1-3-1 zone.
Yang left open for three. Oh, that was huge. That was big time.
And a 1-3-1 should never give up a wing three. That's a loss of assignment from one of the players from New Zealand.
Bang, bang from Yang. And now Bragney looks at the three, decides to take on Lee and draws the foul. And the good thing there is it stops the clock for New Zealand. And if you're China, again, Lee, you just got to put him up.
Yeah, absolutely. Contest the shot, but you don't need to try and block every shot. There's obviously the temptation to do it, but you're absolutely right. For New Zealand now, scoring points with the clock staying still is going to be a big part of their game plan. They're going to need to draw fouls.
Wagner misses from the line. It's really been, in many respects, it's missed opportunities for New Zealand tonight. And, you know, you have to perhaps chalk some of this up to experience. Some of the younger players maybe not playing as well when the game got hot. Farnworth might have gotten away with a bump there for New Zealand. Here's Lee. Xiao-Ting. Now the pass down low. And Wu charges into, well, she was in the keyway, wasn't she? But she goes down Boagni in the circle. Watch this.
Yeah, that's a hard fall. That's a tough fall when someone's coming full pace at you like that. Let's see as Boagni hits the ground, or I think the back of her head hits the floor as well. That's a concern.
And hopefully she's okay. Farnworth. Beck. 1:44 to go, and Lee, good defense. And I think I would be tempted to get Boagni out just to check her out. But Lee and China now with a minute and a half remaining and closing in on victory here against New Zealand, and that takes it back up to a 16-point lead. And now Cox called for an offensive foul.
Yeah, for me, I'm rotating. If I'm Coach Malloy now, I'm making my changes. Yeah, Boagni's asked for a sub. She's obviously shaken up after that as well.
Wu Tong Tong, she definitely banged her head. Hopefully she's okay. Wu Tong Tong did a great job defensively there of getting Cox to commit the offensive foul. And drive in the basket is good. Well, New Zealand, you lose a game like this, and unless you end up with a three-way tie for first place and win on points differential, you know, you're not going to finish top of the group. This puts China perhaps in a very good position to finish top of the group. Of course, they'll have to beat Australia to do that. New Zealand will play Australia tomorrow, and China will go up against the Philippines. So Lee, well, why not? She was so good in the key moments of the game, and takes the lead up to 18. It's biggest of the game for China. I guess the one good thing you would say about this for New Zealand is that they do play the Philippines, and you would expect them to handle the Philippines.
You'd hope so. You'd hope so. After what we saw of the Philippines earlier today, and what we've seen of what New Zealand can do, you'd hope that New Zealand, for their sake, would be able to take the win. But potentially this could rock their confidence slightly. You know, this isn't a game that's going to end up being a close one. This is going to end up being a reasonably big win for China.
So it's actually a 21-point lead for China. So they've really dominated overall the second half. Although New Zealand did do a good job of getting it back to, what was it, 10 points just a couple minutes ago. And we saw the offensive foul on Lee. Telebeck's going to inbound it with 5. Oh, she just did an over and back. And Amy West comes in, the young college player. She's transferred to St. Mary's from Liberty. Redshirt sophomore. And turns it over. She knew immediately after she did it she'd made a mistake, but sometimes things like that happen.
And it does when you've just come off the bench as well. So it's literally her first few moments of the game, and you sat for 40 minutes and watched the game, and now you're coming in for the last few seconds. To turn your brain into kind of game mode is difficult.
This is a great win for China. I mean, that's the only way, because they were having a very, very difficult time in the first half. And as you look at the numbers, they've been able to rally. And look, not just get on top. They looked good when they got on top. Defensively, they were getting after it, and they were getting great performances from Xiaoting. You like the fact that Li really stood up in the big moments of the game. And I think Zhu, Lehman, the coach, has to feel pretty good about his team's chances now of giving Australia a fit, when they square off.
And this is what we talked about earlier. We talked about the fact that obviously Australia sent a message out earlier by, absolutely annihilating the Philippines. We expected it, but it was still quite impressive how they did it. For me, this is a bigger message to the rest of the tournament for China. This is really a strong, strong message to say we've taken what is a young, strong, but also there's some experience in the New Zealand team, and in this second half we've dismantled them. And they have. They've absolutely picked them apart at the seams. The first half was completely scrappy from both sides, but in this second half, they've absolutely taken them to school.
Well, they're going to run a play right out of the gate, and they're going to get to the free throw line. So you might think, why are you doing this when you're up 21 points? But I guess you always have the issue of points differential. If they somehow get into a tie.
Yeah, there's potential for that, and ultimately, when you're flying like this, why are you going to tell your guys not to finish it off? Players want to be on the floor, they want to score the ball, they want to win games, they want to, to stat pad as high as they can,
and you tell your kids you got to play for 40 minutes.
Yeah, if you were on the other end of, if China were on the losing side of this, they'd still be playing tough defense.
West inbounds it, and that's how it finishes. So frustrating in for New Zealand, but a great win for China. 67-44. Guy Malloy goes and shakes the hand of Zhu Lehman. And Australia, you better look out. These Chinese look pretty good. 67-44, the Chinese win it over the Kiwis. How good is China? I think probably inexperience perhaps will still cost them at times, but it's only by getting experience do you get better, and they got great leadership tonight from Xiaoting and as well as from Li. New Zealand, if it doesn't kill you, you hope it makes you stronger. They're going to have to go back to the drawing board. They will know that they had a great first half and they had their chances early in the second half, and they did not take advantage.
Yeah, no, just looking at the shooting percentages tells you a lot about New Zealand. They need to score more threes if they're going to stay in games, particularly where they're undersized like they were tonight. And again, you see China there winning the rebounding battle. One highlight for New Zealand, though, 14 offensive rebounds. That gets them a lot of second chance opportunities, so they'll be looking to explore that and exploit it a little bit further. Neither team will be happy with their turnovers. 22 for China, 20 for New Zealand. They'll both want to protect the ball better than they have so far.
Li, 13 points, and then the center Li with 14 rebounds. Yang with the 2 steals. Taylor with the 3 steals as well.
She was impressive for me. She was really important for New Zealand, and it's that kind of feisty and fight that's going to get them into games and win them games.
I really think that it's, again, as we continue to look at these end-of-game stats, I think it's imperative of the likes of Cox, of Taylor, these and Farnworth, these are the players that have been around, and they're going to have to regroup and say, listen, this game is past. We know we played well for over half of the game. They had a lot of good things to build on. We cut out the mistakes. We started taking advantage, and we come out and give our best shot against Australia. And that's what you have to do. I mean, for China, gosh, they're going to be flying after this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a huge confidence boost for China, and will take them forward with a huge amount, of impetus on what they can do in this tournament. Because they have, in that second half, absolutely taken a very good New Zealand side apart. Now for them, they obviously move on to the Philippines. That's going to be an expected huge win, and it should be a walk in the park for China, but we'll wait and see. You just never know what's going to happen. But the big game is obviously New Zealand-Australia, the first game tomorrow. New Zealand obviously have 4 hours less than Australia as well to recover, and 4 hours might sound like not that much, but when you've gone through a tough 40 minutes like they have here, I think most people would be quite happy for that extra 4 hours.
Well, on the bright spot for New Zealand, you know, they didn't give up. They fought back. They got it to within 10 points late, and it was only really I think a three-pointer from Yang that kind of killed that rally in the end. Had she not hit that three with about, what was it, 3 minutes to go?
Yeah.
They could have gotten even closer. So, you know, tournament play is all about getting over the disappointments, growing as a team, you know, playing well as the tournament gets hotter and hotter, and taking advantage of those opportunities. And it's crucial for New Zealand to get experience for these younger players. And I think their game plan was excellent. But again, with China, as much as we were surprised by how much they were struggling in the first half, they really answered the call in the second half.
Yeah, they really stepped up their game, and like you say, tournament play is so different to any other experience, and it's important for players at a young age to understand what tournament play is. And like you say, you draw a line under this one as quick as you possibly can and refocus Australia, because I guarantee the game plan for playing Australia is going to be a different game plan than they had here to play China. So you hope that they can reset, forget what's happened today, you know, forget the second half, maybe focus on some of the good things that they had going on in the first half and move on. For China, I'm just really excited to see exactly how far this team can go and where their ceiling is. You know, but they've only played a good 20 minutes here. If they play a good 40 minutes, is that gold medal worthy? That's the question, and it's really exciting to see them develop across the next few days.
So here's what's happened today. Australia, Korea, and now China winning. Philippines, Chinese Taipei, and New Zealand losing. Final game of the day coming up between Japan and India.